Today we are going to explain an adventure action comedy movie called Bachchhan Paandey. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The film opens with a young and struggling director named Myra who is helping a famous producer to film an entire scene in one shot. The actual director of the film shows up and starts lashing out at Myra for stealing his spotlight. He announces that he's canceled the shooting and leaves. Despite liking Myra's work, the producer harshly tells Myra to leave the set. Myra goes home to her father who tells her to never back out and always follow her true passion. Myra gets motivated and goes back to the set the next day. Myra confesses that she has come up with a story of her own and would love to direct a biopic. The producer isn't pleased, so he tells her to find other ideas for advertisements. Doing the complete opposite, Myra visits a woman who gives her the names of India's top gangsters. The woman tells Myra that one of those gangsters was put to sleep by a very dangerous criminal named Pandey, and the other one was luckily arrested before Pandey could get his hands on him. That gangster is too afraid to bail out of jail to this day. Myra finds Pandey more amusing and decides to direct a biopic on Pandey's life. The woman gasps and tells her to keep her distance from him, but Myra doesn't listen. Subsequently, Myra reveals to her producer about directing a biopic on the notorious Bachchhan Paandey. This has the producer and his security guard shocked because they have encountered him before. The security guard claims that Pandey once kidnapped a journalist just because he published a notorious article and a funny animated cartoon of his face in the news column. As the guard narrates, the flashback shows that Pandey takes the journalist to a deserted place and sets him on fire. Going against the producer, Myra takes the cheapest public transport to Pandey's hometown. As she gets off the bus, she immediately gets looted. She runs after a thug who snatched her bag from her. Myra finally reaches closer to the thug, revealing it was his friend Vishu messing with her all along. She goes with Vishu, who takes her to a school building where he's currently living. He tells that the school is closed due to summer vacation, and the peon there happens to be his friend. Likewise Myra, Vishu is also struggling in the film industry. He has come to this town to give auditions for small roles, but is always hung up by the directors. When Myra tells Vishu about who she is covering for her biopic, Vishu becomes fearful and tells her to pack her stuff and leave immediately. A little while later, Myra approaches Vishu and gets him on her team by offering her a second hero role in her biopic. In a time-lapse, the two set on a journey to interview the general public and secretly film Pandey as he robs a birthday party and beats up his ops. In the next scene, Pandey is seen visiting his boss who is in a state of coma in a hospital. He politely tells him that he's taken care of the attackers that had come to attack him at the hospital. When Pandey walks out of the old man's room, the entire hospital is seen burnt to flames and dozens of guys beaten and knocked out. On the other hand, Myra and Vishu stop at a service garage where Myra requests Vishu to get Pandey's biodata so that she can show some depth in the character of Pandey in her biopic. She suggests talking to Pandey directly, and as she speaks of the devil, Pandey shows up. He sits beside Myra, grabs her by the face and threatens her to not meddle in his life or else he will take her life. Myra and Vishu run back to the school building where Myra admits she was wrong for considering talking directly to Pandey. Instead, she decides to interview his sidekicks. Vishu collects all sorts of information on the three main sidekicks that are always seen around Pandey. One of them goes by the name Pandey, who is a humbled family guy who also has a secret addiction to adult films. The second one goes by the name Bachchhan, who owns a local cinema and stutters a lot. The third guy goes by the name Pendulum, who is a drunkard and a psycho lover. Now Vishu and Myra take turns and try to interview all three of them, but each one turns out to be a failure and they end up running away. At work, everyone makes fun of Pandey because his secret adult film addiction was revealed to everyone because of Vishu. Pandey goes to the bathroom to pee. The toilet cleaner insists on using the first stall, but a guy stops him from going there and vomits in front of the first stall. When he opens the first stall, a guy shoots him, thinking he's Pandey. He fiercely calls his boss and tells him that he has finished Pandey, not knowing he's been watching the entire thing from the second bathroom stall. Pandey's men show up and take him back to their place where they beat him up while interrogating. There, Bachchhan calls Pandey and reveals that someone from within their gang has snitched and the murder attempt was his doing. Pandey becomes angry and directly orders his thugs to take the man's life. Meanwhile, Vishu takes Myra to an abandoned wood factory, which is also Pandey's smuggling spot. There, Pendulum catches a glimpse of them and orders his apprentice named Virgin to follow Vishu because Pandey recognizes he is the one selling him adult films. Virgin goes after them and directly has them hostage. He tries to get a word out of him, but Myra takes his pictures and flatters him by calling him handsome and photogenic. She then gets Virgin drunk enough to spill some beans on Pandey, but before he can tell anything important, Pandey's sidekicks call him. Before leaving, Myra insists Virgin have all his photos transferred to his phone so that he can impress his wife with them. Virgin hands her his phone right away. Despite Vishu's constant disapproval, Myra fits in a chip-sized mic inside Virgin's phone so that they can hear everything happening within a 1-kilometer radius of the mic. Virgin unites with the thugs who tell him about their secret attempt to kill Rana, since it has been confirmed that he's the snitch. They tell Virgin to take Pandey's car and have its tank filled with gasoline. Myra and Vishu listen to the entire conversation and decide to follow Virgin from a distance. Midway, Virgin stops and snitches out the entire plan to Rana. When Pandey and his men invade Rana's girlfriend's house, they find him gone. While Vishu and Myra hear everything, Pandey and his men start laughing and single out Virgin. Pandey reveals that the entire plan of catching Rana was a trick to actually catch Virgin since he was suspicious of him. Pandey's men also trace Rana and get him back. Pandey forces Virgin to shoot Rana and loses murder virginity. Virgin shoots Rana and attempts to shoot Pandey afterward, but Pandey shows reflexes and takes Virgin's life with a gun in his hand. When Virgin falls on the floor, his phone's back cracks open and reveals a spy mic. Pendulum realizes that this mic is a special frequency mic, which is mostly used by cops or the media people. As Myra and Vishu realize what has happened, they start running away in fear. Pandey speaks into the mic, threatening the two of their lives for spying on him. The two run back into the school building and immediately start packing their bags. As they come out, they find Pandey and his goons waiting for them. Pandey's goons beat them up, and when Pandey is about to smash Myra's head with a hammer, she reveals her real incentives to make a biopic on his life. Surprisingly, Pandey gets flattered and spares their lives. He casually allows the two to interview him for the movie. The next day, Myra and Vishu, all being scared and hesitant, take Pandey and his gang's interview, which later gets wild. Gradually, Myra and Vishu fully integrate themselves into the thug's life and record their day-to-day encounters with their rivals and their murder attempts. Soon, Myra finishes writing down the film's script. Vishu becomes excited and reads the script, only to find out a minor scene of his, whereas Myra promised him a leading role. He gets mad, but before he can throw a tantrum, Pandey sends his men to invite Myra to their gathering. There, Vishu purposefully aggravates Pandey to play the lead role in the film. Myra tries to rage out, but Pandey makes sure she stays fearful of him and forcefully gets himself the lead role. After the celebration, Myra decides to take the bus back home. Vishu finds her at the bus stop and both apologize to one another for their behavior. Before they can leave, Pandey's goons show up at the bus stop, but they confess that they are not here to kill them, but to tell them the real story of Bachchhan Paandey that will melt her heart. They reveal that the guy whom he protects in a hospital used to be his boss. One day, his boss sent him to a carnival to abduct a reporter, but Pandey crossed paths with a foreigner named Sophie and fell in love with her. He confessed his love for Sophie to his boss and requested to quit the thug lifestyle and settle down with Sophie. That night, Sophie calls Pandey in the carnival, which has been closed. There, she shows up in an Indian wedding dress. Before the lovebirds could spark romance, some local thugs showed up and popped Pandey's eye out. They beat Pandey up and pushed Sophie down from a cartwheel, ultimately killing her. This shattered Pandey's heart and resulted in him turning stone cold. Myra becomes touched by this and decides to shoot the film with Pandey as the lead. She shows up to shoot Pandey, but he mises up dialogues and stutters a lot. She tries to tell Pandey that acting isn't his cup of tea and that the producer won't finance them like that. Pandey's men open the trunk and take out the producer whom they've abducted. Under the gun, the producer agrees on financing the film, but Myra insists on getting an acting teacher. The teacher doesn't like Pandey's attitude on the first day and slaps him, which causes great chaos. Vishu and Myra beg Pandey to bear with the teacher until they learn to act properly. Now, Pandey and his thugs indulge themselves in acting lessons and work tough hours just to learn how to be gangsters on screen. Soon, they start directing the film under Myra's supervision. They create huge sets and get Pandey to shoot weird scenes. While shooting the carnival part of Pandey's life, Pandey slowly starts falling in love with Myra, but soon the shooting ends and Myra goes back to Mumbai for editing and promotion of the film. Meanwhile, Pandey gets the news that his boss has regained consciousness at the hospital. Pandey runs to him and chokes him to death with his bare hands, revealing the film's plot. The day Pandey's girlfriend was killed, Pandey found out the same stash of cash from the thug's car that his boss used to give to him, hence revealing his boss had sent the thugs to kill Sophie. Unluckily, his boss fell into a coma, leaving Pandey the charge of his mafia. Since that day, Pandey waited for his boss to come out of a coma so he can take his revenge on him, which he eventually does. Soon, the film gets premiered and Pandey's thugs make sure to get their town public to buy the film tickets. Pandey's life turns upside down when he sees the roles being reversed and his image being portrayed as a goofy clown instead of a thug. He becomes outrageous, whereas Myra gets applause and media attention for directing the film. Pandey and his men start looking for Myra so that they can put her to sleep because she ruined Pandey's fearful image that he took his entire life to build. Vishu becomes aware of the situation and forcefully takes Myra into a hideout. Sadly, Pandey and his men find them in the middle of nowhere. They throw Myra on the ground and pour gasoline all over her. Before Pandey can light her up, he reveals that he was furious at first, but as soon as he saw the local cinemas filled and the public cheering and rooting for him, he became flattered. But what moved him the most was that his mother, who hadn't spoken to him ever since he had become a criminal, finally spoke to him and praised his role in the film. He raises his hands in front of Myra and apologizes to her for his behavior. He not only spares her life, but also becomes grateful to her for making him a star. The film ends with Pandey and his goons shooting another film with a new director. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.